Verdansk is coming back to Warzone in 2025, and it's all but been confirmed by Activision. Today, we're gonna dive deep into a video from JGod and discuss what we can actually expect upon its arrival. The video is titled 90 Days Until Verdansk Returns to Warzone, and what I'd like to say up front is that this is not the only thing we're gonna be looking at today. Of course, we're gonna give our opinions on JGod's video. However, I have a ton of information planned on the back end that I think is gonna be very useful for you, so make sure to stick around until the very end. Either way, let's go ahead and dive straight in and talk about what JGod has to say.
Today we're talking about Verdansk returning in about 90 days. We've kind of estimated about March 10th. We still haven't got an official date. We know it's going to be early next year, but I thought there's a bunch of things that we could talk about in regards to the state of the game, kind of where things are going.
I will note immediately off rip that the most likely date that we're going to see Verdansk coming is March 10th, 2025. And the reason why is because that's basically 5 years since the exact date of Warzone's original release. So my guess is that we're going to see it right then, and that's why he says 90 days. I didn't press start.
Knowing what the content looks like between now and then also like what are the expectations for Verdansk, because I think it's going to be a big deal, and especially it's kind of bad if the game is in a terrible situation where people are going about deleting the game, uninstalling, those types of things.
And I think the worst part about him saying that is that it's just completely true. Like, I have had more comments than I've ever had in my entire existence on this platform, on YouTube, of people saying I've uninstalled Warzone, I'm done playing Warzone, I've moved on to another game, I've moved on to a bunch of different games. In fact, let me actually pull this up. Fortnite just released their new Fortnite OG, and you can see right here, when was OG Fortnite just released? And you can see that's December 6th. Now, what that is Fortnite has released their very, very first original map. And a lot of people have switched to playing that because it feels nostalgic and stuff like that. But the next thing, the big thing that's going to be a massive issue for Call of Duty is Fortnite Ballistic, which is a 5v5 first-person shooter in Fortnite. And what that means is that everybody that's not been playing Fortnite, specifically based on the fact that they don't have first person, guess what? People are going to be switching. My guess is what's going to happen next is that Fortnite's going to take the opportunity to make a BR in first person and with zero build and absolutely obliterate the game. So if that happens around the time that they probably know that we have OG Warzone coming back in Verdansk, we could be in a tough pickle, and people likely aren't going to re-download the game, and then Verdansk flops and we're left in the dust. So it could be kind of crazy when this all happens.
Because at the end of the day, it benefits the game to have more players on there. Obviously, individually, it helps because obviously there's more views to go around. But I think when the game is in a better spot and it's doing more economically for the studio, then they're able to go out of their way to do more fun things for the community, and just leads to a better overall game. I thought we could talk about multiple of those things, but speaking...
I think before he goes any further, what I would like to say, and I talk about this a lot, I've said this over and over and over since Warzone 1, to be quite honest, since Verdansk. If they would stop focus on retention hacking their player base, and they'd focus on creating a fun experience, even if that meant getting rid of the skill-based matchmaking or whatever it is that they've got in place. And again, I have plenty of videos talking about skill-based matchmaking, whether or not it is or isn't manipulative, the way that they've built it out, their connection, the player base that hops into each lobby. I've talked about that. If they would take the L on the front end, they'd make the game purely focused on fun. I think players would return to the game. They'd make a lot more in sales, and that would mean that in the long term, they'd make a crap load more money. So when JGod talks about here that basically it hurts them and they refuse to do things if they're not making enough money, and it's easier on them if they are making a ton of money, sure, of course. But if they were in the first place not solely focused on maximizing profits and instead would focus on fun, they would maximize profits. It's literally a series of chain reactions that for some reason Call of Duty simply doesn't understand, but games like Fortnite do understand that if you put fun first, then players have a better experience, are more likely to spend money, and you'll make more money as a company.
Deleting the game, we do have a sponsored segment, which we'll do right now. Today's video is brought to you by
I love you, brother. I'm skipping it. I can't do it. I can't do it. We got to skip over it, JGod. I love you. I love you. Actually, I use those.
Duration. And for 20%,
Shut up.
I got a link to the top of the description. Thank you to Delete Me for sponsoring today's
Thanks,
video.
Delete Me.
Welcome back. So
Not sponsored.
I think one of the things to talk about is what are the realistic expectations? Because I know a lot of you guys that are watching these videos, it's either fit into a couple different camps. One, you hate the game and you play it every single day, which is the average COD player. They hate COD every single day, but they play it every single day.
That's fair.
And then there's other people that venture out, do variety games. They play new things when they come out. I play tons of variety games. I think I've played around 30 different games this year. Most recently, Balatro, which is up for Game of the Year. The side note, we'll probably dabble in PoE 2, whatever. There's a lot of other games out there. People mix it up, and then they come to COD and play COD when it is good.
And I will note, the only other game that I play throughout the year, and you'll hear me talk about it, is I play Zelda. That's it. That's all I got. Legend of Zelda. Whatever game comes out for Legend of Zelda, usually the large ones. I don't really care about the little ones, the like 2D, 3D type vibes. I liked them whenever they were popular way back in the day, but now not really my thing. But those are the games that I play. I play that and I play Call of Duty. I focus purely on my job, which is Call of Duty. And that's why I'm so passionate, is because I've always loved Call of Duty. Now listen, I wouldn't be having these conversations if it came to something like The Legend of Zelda, if it came to the thing that I like playing, because those games don't launch with an outrageous amount of bugs. And the bugs that do come with the game are actually usually very useful to you. So it's just a weird spot where Call of Duty is the only game that launches with terrible integrations every single year. But again, I don't play any other games, so it kind of sucks for me. But again, I guess people will hop into a comments and be like, you need to just play something else. Go play something else, bud. Well, should we have to? Should we have to play something else? Because trust me, it doesn't always make sense to go play something else, bud.
And then there's other people that really haven't given COD a chance for a number of different reasons and a number of different issues, whether they like the original Warzone 1 before Warzone 2 and they haven't come back. Maybe they tried to come back during MW3. They liked it, and then when they changed the game again, they don't like the buggy mess. Maybe people are really enjoying the current version of Black Ops 6 integration, but are still kind of getting over some of the different issues with the network and a lot of these other issues. So
yeah, I think a lot of the people that hop in and then leave on repeat are the people that are trying to give Call of Duty a shot. They will this is the worst part, is that people spend their money, they buy the new game. They hop on the game, they get on with their friends, they play for a couple of days, and what ends up happening is after they've spent that $60, $70, $100, and they've got all their friends to spend all that money, everybody hops in, and then about the same time, everybody goes, man, this game sucks. They've got all these things that are broken in it. It's not about the mechanics. People can get used to mechanics. I'll say this over and over and over. People can get used to mechanics. But if the game itself is physically very buggy, it has a lot of issues, people will immediately leave. So Call of Duty gets their money, and it doesn't have to be from you or me, the like super hardcore players that always play all the time. It comes from the players that hop on and then immediately leave anyway. So that's why Call of Duty tends to not fix things, is because they just don't have to.
Realistically, depending on where you're at, it's going to determine your different expectations of what you want. And I think this is where it gets a little bit confusing, because a lot of people talk about the concept of OG Verdansk. And I don't think people realize if you actually went true OG, how many features would be gone.
And to that point, he's going to talk about this in a second, but I would like to note, what people really get wrong is that they think Infinity Ward were the ones that made the best version of Verdansk. And I want to be very clear, that is not the case. Infinity Ward is the one that caused all the bugs. I don't know if you know this, and I don't know if you can recognize that from when Warzone 2 dropped. Infinity Ward was the one that had all the bugs. Their version of Verdansk is the one that allowed people to hop in and literally break the game by just going to a very specific part of the map. What the hell? Theirs is the one that had weapons that would just like cover your whole screen because they were bugged out models and could literally cause like epileptic episodes. Like there's a ton of different things like that IW caused. But Raven Software were the ones that came in and they adjusted things because they cared to fix it, because that was their job, was to take the things that were broken, fix it, improve it. And every single year, Raven is at the I don't know, they're at liberty of the other software titles? What am I trying to say? They're at liberty of the other companies that work under Activision to do whatever they want in the game, which is why we end up with all these buggy messes, is that if Raven had the opportunity to just take hold of it and make something on their own, then the game would continue to work very well because they iron out the bugs every single year. Every single year, they have to iron out the bugs from the new engine. It's not a new engine, but we'll talk about that in a minute. They iron out these bugs and then they have to redo it over and over and over because they are at the liberty of these other companies. And it just sucks because Raven takes the bad rep whenever they're actually the ones working their ass off to fix the problems that came from Infinity Ward or came from, Lord forbid, Treyarch this year. It's incredibly dumb because people just miss the point every time.
You only had 5 plates, no way to hold more. Like if you really wanted to go OG. And then when you start having conversations with different people, you're gonna get slammed or yeah, you got slammed.
Dang.
When you have conversations with different people, what inevitably happens is they go, well, obviously not that OG. And it's like, depending on what people want from the game, there's different areas of the game that could be changed. Whether it's how the contract works, it's the lack of zips. Do they want it to be hard to get up into a building? You got to climb 19 stairs? Or do you want a zip to be able to get to the top? Or do you want a balloon or a drone to go ahead and go to the top? For some people, depending on how they utilize it, they may or may not like it. Do you want one shot sniping at infinite range so you can get a 2,000 meter long shot with the Car 98K? For some people, worst version of COD ever. For others, the greatest. So it's like, where does it stop?
And to be fair, I think that I align with quite a few different things. And I have my own opinion, but what I kind of want to go and look at is a tweet from Sean Cass Gamer. And I'll show you right here. He responded to JGod's video and he said a very long list of information. And obviously I'm taking this out of the video, but I kind of want to go into this for just a second because it is right on topic with what JGod was talking about. He said, good JGod video today and about how people will always complain about Warzone no matter what they bring back with Verdansk. My 2 cents. I want 2020 Verdansk from season 5. I want them to add more ascenders to the sides of the buildings and maybe even a few zip lines between some of the buildings downtown. I don't want redeploy balloons at all. Which, by the way, that's kind of a big deal. Not wanting redeploy balloons changes the way that the game feels entirely. The speed of the match is going to be slowed down drastically depending upon how you actually play. And if you ever watched OG Verdansk, you know that they didn't have a lot of balloons, right? I don't even think they had balloons at all, now that I think about it. They didn't have the ability to just soar across the map. You had to use different things to get there, and people were still dropping incredible numbers whenever it came to eliminations. So you're not being stopped by not having balloons. With that in mind, he says, I want them to make rotating by foot or vehicle a skill that you have to have rather than just flying all over the map. I want them to get rid of a lot of the cheese they've added over the last few years. No gulag tokens, no portable buy stations, or very, very rare and orange crates. Simplify the buy stations like an OG Warzone. Self-revives shouldn't be all over the ground. I want the gun metas to be like they were in that back half of the first year. AMAX/MP5 or HDR/Kilo or a RAM in a car. You had to think about your playstyle if you wanted to play at range. You could make that choice. Then you build out your guns to snipe and compete in the middle distance. Or you could run the AMAX and compete at that mid-longish mid-distance and run something for a bit shorter range fights. Now, you don't get to determine your playstyle. You have to be able to play short range because with balloons and everything, people are flying in on you, rushing you all the time. The more deliberate tactical style of play is largely gone. I want late game regains to be a challenge. I remember how epic it was when you were having to rotate into final circles and you needed to make a crazy play to buy back a teammate while also rotating on foot. People talk about skill gap. Man, that's a skill gap. Managing late game made you use your brain. Will people camp more? Yes. Will the game play out a bit slower? Yes. But so what? If you want hectic, frenetic gameplay, then go to Resurgence and not Big Map BR. I barely play Warzone now. I stopped playing regularly when Caldera became like a Resurgence mode with extra cheese. The Warzone 2 backpack system just killed the game for me. So the idea of 5 plates, 2 lethals, and 2 tacticals with a bunch of ammo appeals to me. I would love to come back to Warzone. The idea of being able to jump on for an hour or two a night and get a few games in, settle into them, and have some fun would be amazing. But if that's not to be, then so be it. It's been a couple of years. I miss playing Warzone with my mates and my wife, but if Activision/Microsoft is intent on making the game fun for the TikTok brain rot crowd, then I'll just continue not to play. In JGod's video, he makes the good point. In JGod's video, he makes the good point. This is kind of the last kick of the can for Warzone for me. I didn't even install it this year when I started playing the Game Pass edition. I finally got around to installing it to try out the integration, but I think I played 3 or 4 games and went, nope. So if COD missed with the Warzone this time, when it goes back to Verdansk, I think Warzone becomes a game that I used to play and just move on. I doubt Avalon, the upcoming map for Warzone after Verdansk, or anything else would bring me back. And there's a lot of good points in this. There's a lot that they talk about where they discuss the play style that's been lost. And I think that they're spot on. I know that a lot of people like more fast-paced games, and I agree with that. I know that a lot of people want to get more eliminations and things of that nature. But I also think there's a certain amount of battle royale that's been lost in the state that we have with Warzone. So it really sucks to see that we're basically stuck in this state of make sure that everybody's going super fast. It feels really good in the game, whenever in reality, it just shouldn't be like that. We should just be able to hop in, play with the boys, and have a good time. Or girls, I don't know. I mean, I feel like back in the day, it was just so different. There was a lot more like being tactical to it. You had to think while you played. But now I feel like, and take this from someone that's a content creator, I don't like the idea that all we do is just sprint at people to get eliminations. I think there's a certain amount that being like looking at content creators and thinking everybody should play like that. When in reality, these content creators, they're playing 8 hours a day. These guys have thousands upon thousands of hours in the game. And Call of Duty has kind of taken that information that people want to play like these guys and people want to get better. And they've kind of tuned the game to make it easier for people to do that. And while there should be a certain amount of ease, I don't think it should be, we're naturally going to make you better. It should be, you have to work to get better at the game. And a lot of that comes from being smart. Back in the day, making content around tips and tricks worked really well. You could teach people specific things that would help to make them better. Now, you just cheese the system. You can do a ton of different things that you simply couldn't do back then, and it just makes the game really cheesy. I mean, this is going to sound crazy, even the footstep audio back then, you didn't have to get a freaking audio tune. Sure. You know what? I'm not saying the audio was great. I'm not trying to say Call of Duty has ever had good audio when it comes to Warzone, because they've never had a large map that they had to understand how to make footstep audio sound good. But I am saying that back then you could hear footsteps. They've continuously changed their audio design, and Lord forbid, I have no idea how they keep getting like audio awards whenever the audio is god awful. And people are having to get audio tunes just to be able to hear any footsteps in the game, which is crazy because they build it out knowing that the footsteps are there, but they break so many little different things that you have to use a different thing to actually be able to hear the audio that they intend for you to hear, because no one actually plays in a freaking theater, which is where they master the audio. It's insane to me. Anyway, my point is, everything should be a bit more tactical when it comes to a BR. I think that they looked at Resurgence and how popular it got, and it pretty much ruined everything. And we are going to get back into the JGod video, but I just, this is something I'm very passionate about. I think Resurgence ruined Warzone. I truly do. Technically, I think it was a chain reaction that ruined Warzone, but I think that them offering up Resurgence as a way to get away with their failures, basically, as a solution to their failures, is what ruined Warzone. Realistically, in Warzone 1, they needed to make sure that the bugs were ironed out. And Raven basically got there. I think there were obviously still more bugs at the end of Warzone 1, at the end of Verdansk. But I also think that cheaters were ruining too many games. At the end of Warzone 1, we had the worst cheater situation that we've ever had. And then, because of that, people would quit the game. Call of Duty decided to add in Rebirth Island. It wasn't popular. I don't know if you know this. Rebirth was not popular. I remember specifically, I don't know how y'all don't understand this. I remember very specifically having a conversation with Bear Pig. This guy, and I'm not talking smack, but Bear Pig had zero competition. Zero. None. Nobody made videos on Rebirth because no one played Rebirth. No one cared about Rebirth. Everybody wanted that tactical feel whenever they played Warzone. And with Bear Pig, he could get away with just slapping out a random thumbnail, a random gun, and 2 gameplays or even 1 gameplay, and he'd have the video edited, the thumbnail done in 10 minutes. 10 minutes flat. I remember this conversation. It's in my DMs. I swear to God it is. We had a whole conversation about that right there, and he had no competition. Nobody played. There was no audience aside from who watched him. So he was getting views upon views upon views from the sole audience that played Rebirth. Whenever Rebirth started getting more popular, more people started playing it. I remember his views would go down. It would kind of level out because there was still only a certain amount of audience. And again, hopefully people don't take this wrong. I'm not talking smack about Bear Pig in the slightest. My point is that the more people there are in the space and the stuff like that, and the more content creators there are in the space, it kind of levels out your audience. So what ended up happening is that during Caldera, when Rebirth came out, it slowly started getting more and more players because there was still a massive cheating problem. And I've made so many videos on this. There was a lot of bugs that came with Caldera, but the chain reaction was lots of cheaters, lots of bugs in Caldera. People saw Rebirth and they were like, okay, I can either spend 25 to 30 minutes losing a Caldera match to some absolute bullshit, or I could go play a 8 to 12 minute match in Rebirth and not feel bad if I die because I just come back because there's resurgence. And then I'll come back again over and over and over. So it ended up being this chain reaction of people got tired of losing in stupid ways that had nothing to do with whether or not they were a good or a bad player. So they ended up getting pushed to resurgence. Then we had the introduction of TikTok becoming massive. And I don't mean like small, like, you know, like, wow, it went from kind of like getting viewership to getting more view. Literally TikTok exploded during the time of Rebirth. So what ends up happening is we have these brain rot people that have the attention span of a goldfish. And then with that attention span, they played Rebirth. Then we got these YY demons that were usually using cheats, I'll note. And it became very popular to do stuff like that. And then these crazy like anime guys that would try and make like anime edits. And basically what ended up happening is that because of all of these things stacking up with a large map situation where people were losing to stuff that had nothing to do with whether or not they were a good or a bad player, it was all problems with the game, people would switch to Resurgence. And now Resurgence has been popularized. But the reality is it's actually hurting their franchise because it's people that'll come in and leave, come in and leave, come in and leave. They don't feel a connection with the game. They're just playing it for 10 minutes and then hopping off. When you played a tactical BR, when you played Verdansk, you would play for hours. And I realized, yes, this was during COVID, but you would hop on with the boys and you would play all night because you just had this connection. You got this feeling at the end of the game. And it stayed there for me. It was always there for me during Verdansk. It never disappeared. Now you can go back and look at my videos. I have dozens of videos of me just being like, dude, I don't need the win. I don't care about the win. It makes no difference to me. You're welcome to have it. Go ahead and eliminate me. Like stuff like that happens all the time to me now. And it just wasn't a thing that I did back then. And it's because I felt so good when I got the win. You just got that feeling and now you don't get that anymore. And it's because of just a lack of thought. A lack of realizing the way that your actions affect your player base and the thought process that they'll end up having because of the way of the cause and effect of all of this, basically. At the end of the day, the point is I agree with our boy that dropped that big long tweet. I think it's a very interesting topic as to whether or not we should focus on a tactical gameplay or if we should focus on brain rot and coming back in 24/7 and always having a chance, but your teammates never actually have to go buy you back. And when they do, it's very, very rare because you usually just come back for free anyway. I think there's a lot of different things to do to that. I think there's a lot of different things that Call of Duty needs to do to make sure it works, but I digress. Let's move back in.
We go to 100 HP, so we get killed a lot faster. It's like whatever your health is when you respawn in Resurgence with only 2 plates, that is the standard. Like that would be your standard health. and that's equals 150. So I think there's a lot of these things. It's like, what is the give and take for a lot of people?
I will note what he was talking about right there is that when Verdansk dropped, you had less health, so you die faster. At the end of Caldera, things changed. Raven Software had listened to the community. They realized that the player base that was still playing actually wanted more health because they wanted engagements to go longer and they didn't want to get deleted. And that's why moving from Caldera to Modern Warfare 2 to Warzone 2, there was actually a massive difference. That's why when you dropped in Modern Warfare 2, it felt like you were getting deleted instantly. And the reason why is they literally changed the health in the Caldera version of Warzone, but Infinity Ward has the ego of a maniac. They are egomaniacs, realistically, at Infinity Ward, and they believe that everything they do is right. So when they were building out Warzone 2, they made it to where it deleted all of the work that Raven did. And I'm not talking about like, 5 steps forward, 3 steps back. No, it was literally like 59 steps backward, 1 step forward. And I can't even name what that step forward was, to be quite honest. But that's what he's talking about right there.
Realistically, I like the systems currently in place. I wish the mantling where you do the ledge hang, probably gone. I wish we had unlimited attack sprint or slide canceling, reset our attack sprint. I think that would be kind of awesome.
I disagree with that. I think slide canceling the way that it is now, I think Omnimovement is very, very good. I think that they just need to iron it out.
I think there's some other ideas to maybe increase the bullet velocity of the weapons, because I think one of the things in Warzone 1 that was so good is that there was one-shot sniping, but you can relatively easy counter one-shot sniping with one-shot or like multi-shot low recoil shooting. Yep. We had different metas like the Kilo, the Growl, the M4, and a lot of these lower recoil guns. And then there were some other variations of it where maybe we had the M13, super fast fire rate, relatively low recoil, the RAM, super fast fire rate, predictive recoil pattern, but a little bit more of a skilled gun to use. And then we had a little bit higher skilled, which was like the AMAX, and we had significantly easier guns to use because of the bullet velocity.
And I don't know if y'all remember these metas. I don't know if like how many people watching this video right now played during Verdansk. In fact, I'd love to know in a comment down below if you did play during Verdansk, because I think that kind of separates the audience to know who's actually going to care. But the big thing is obviously if they drop Verdansk, they had a massive audience back then. They had 100 million players just on Verdansk without Warzone Mobile, without COD Mobile and stuff like that. That existed. That's crazy. That's a massive audience that has the ability to feel nostalgia for a game. But I would love to know how many of y'all actually played during Verdansk, because I think that makes a massive difference on this conversation. Because if you've only played the new games, if you've only played Warzone 2+, Warzone 3+, then it might change the way that you truly feel about the mechanics that were in Warzone 1. You might actually have come to this game because of the TikTok brain that you have. And obviously, no offense, but also a little offense.
And although you might get sniped on occasion and you get pissed off because you can get sniped across the map, you can still revive, you can still crawl to cover, those types of things. But it allowed for both like metas, the sniper meta and the long range meta, essentially to be able to compete with each other. And when they're both competing, they're both good. And what they've done recently is they've kind of made them both trash. The long range meta, although they increased the bullet velocity recently, it's still not up to par compared to what it was.
Yeah, and on that topic, whenever you have two things that are completely terrible, you've got your snipers that are goofy as all hell. I think they've made snipers to where it's a one-shot elimination up to a certain distance, and I don't know at what point we decided that was a good idea. I think it made sense whenever Rebirth was the only thing being played, because you didn't want to get slammed in Rebirth. But when you're playing Warzone, how is it that you can have a 50 caliber bullet go through your head and you don't die? I don't care what distance you're at. There's no way, even at 2,000 meters, we know for a fact that listen, I realize it's an arcade shooter and I'm not trying to take away from that, but also what's the point of having a 50 caliber weapon if it's not going to work like a 50 caliber weapon? My point here is, I think having a bad long range meta and forcing close range engagements is an L. I think it's a big fat L, because and this is just another thing where it's Activision going out of their way to nerf keyboard and mouse players. And again, I play on controller. I'm on controller. everybody that was like, Expel, just switch to controller. I'm on controller. So I think it's just another way that they're not thinking about a percentage of their audience. And I'm not trying to say that, you know, we should cater to mouse and keyboard players, but I do think that if you are going to have a system where mouse and keyboard players and controller players have to fight each other, just like you're going to have a system where console and PC players are going to fight each other, I think you should make sure that it's as even as physically possible across the board. And that's obviously something, the closest we had across the board for that was Verdansk, except for the fact that FOV sliders didn't exist for console. But all of that was mostly even in Warzone 1 because they just had a good system going. But now, mouse and keyboard can't compete in the slightest. There's like 3 dudes that do well on mouse and keyboard right now in Warzone. And you could probably name them. I'm not going to lie. But the point is, like, it's very difficult these days to fight keyboard and mouse versus controller because you've got this visual shake. You've got the visual smoke. You literally, most of the time, cannot see your enemy, right? So if you're on controller, you get aim assist. But if you're on mouse and keyboard, you can't see them. So you just like shooting into the dark. Like that's what happens. You're just shooting into the dark. What do you do there? So I think that things like this just have a bunch of adverse effects. And I wish that whoever is making the game, whoever's working on OG Warzone would make sure that they think about these things. They think about making sure that this stuff works kind of like it did back in the day, because if it doesn't, you're not going to get the nostalgia. They're going to ruin the nostalgia and everybody's going to be pissed.
Back in the day. And the sniping, it's not either. There's a couple snipers that can do infinite range one-shot sniping, but then you end up with like 800 bullet velocity and the gun's hard to use. It's not fun and it feels like trash to use. And if that's your meta option, you're kind of in a terrible spot. And I think this is really one of those things where it's like, how much nostalgia glasses do people have on? I've watched gameplay recently. I've gone back and played 2019 to see how it feels. And I think there are 100% elements of the current version of the game that are smoother, but MW 2019 was by far snappier.
Yep. And by the way, JGod does have a video on this. If I open up his page,
they can manage to make.
Okay. If I open up a page on his channel and you go and look, he actually talked about somewhere in here. He talked about the. Okay, I don't even know where it is. He compared them, but I literally can't find it. Oh, here it is. Warzone Modern Warfare 2019, right there. He literally talked about in this video the difference between the two. And the big thing that he noticed was that it was just snappier. A lot of stuff had issues, like snaking was much worse and things like that from Modern Warfare 2019. Wow, look at that face, man. I really got my boy right there. But a lot of things were different back in the day. But the big thing is that even though the weapons technically ADS at the same speed now as they did, it's a smoother animation, which actually hurts the player whenever it comes to trying to get on target. It also isn't centered properly, and you don't stay centered on your target while you're shooting, which again is that visual shake that is absolutely awful and is terrible for every single player, but specifically mouse and keyboard players, which is the exact reason that I switched to controller. I wish that they would make it snappy, because the snappiness felt good for everyone. Even if it was the same speed, it just felt better.
It's snappier while utilizing the tools that we have now. It's like they could take the best of both worlds. So I think if they can manage to execute it, but the launch of this integration has been really lackluster in the sense that it's had a lot of issues. I think the core gameplay, like I said, I'm glad it's back to being streamlined, potential to be fun again on a regular basis. I wish vehicles had a little bit better mobility, so it felt like the Verdansk vehicles, Verdansk 84 and Caldera. The audio, like what is the audio going to be like?
Dude, the audio right now, it sounds like you're walking down a hallway with heels on all the time. And it's not like you can tell which side they're coming from. The issue is you can hear clomp, 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 but the audio is reverberating off of every wall. Every single wall. If it's an enemy, the audio is literally bouncing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you hear something and you're like, is it this side? Is it above me? Is it below me? Is it this side? Like, are they inside of me right now? Am I being penetrated? Like, you literally cannot tell where someone's at right now. And I think if they make the audio like that in Verdansk, we're chalked. Straight up, that is immediately, they lose it right there. And I think is a weird topic to talk about, but I think with Fortnite, the one good thing that they did right is they got the fundamentals down pat. They got all the fundamentals down pat. That was the first thing that they did, right? I don't know if you know a lot about Fortnite, but I used to play Fortnite back when it was OG, when like during the time that it came out. I don't know if it was like 2017 or something like that. I think it was 2017. And during Fortnite, what they did is all the updates that they did, like the big updates, what they'd focus on is making sure, all right, we want to make sure that you can tell if someone's above you or below you. We want to make sure that specific like floors and stuff like that will have certain audio whenever you hit it. And to a certain extent, Call of Duty does do that, but there's this big issue where it just doesn't work. Like this reverberation that they've added in is supposed to make the audio better, but realistically what they've done is they've added it so that they can sell you an audio pack, which has to be the craziest move I've ever seen. If you think about it, it's kind of hilarious that they saw that someone was selling online the ability to tune your audio, which again is not against DOS in the slightest. Obviously, you know, to each their own if you feel it's ethically right or wrong. But I think it's hilarious that they saw that somebody was doing that. And instead of Call of Duty being like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to build out an audio mix that allows people to scan their ears and stuff like that. And we're going to pay up front for the cost of this from that other company. What they did is they were like, we're going to make some goddamn money on this and we're going to start selling audio tunes to our audience, bro. That's insane to me that y'all couldn't have just made sure that the audio worked. And and now we have a $20 audio tune in the game. But I think audio is a big deal is what I'm trying to say. And I think that if they don't do good audio, then we're going to end up pretty much screwed whenever it comes to Verdansk.
When did we have the best audio? I can ask you all, and you guys can comment different things. And because there's not a one right answer, depending on your headset, your play style, what part of the maps you play on, what type, like there's a lot of variables to it.
I think across the board, Caldera had the best audio. It just got better and better and better as time went on. Don't get me wrong. There were times where when Caldera audio was god awful. When the map just first dropped, it was horrendous. But Caldera absolutely had the best audio.
Personally, I felt like around Caldera was when we probably had the best audio, and then when they switched to the engine, it kind of like busted a lot of things and they've never really been able to fine tune it back to it was. Even though Caldera wasn't a great map, I think a lot of the things in place.
Caldera was actually a really good map. I think what broke Caldera was that there was a peak. If they would have blown up, if they would have done this thing where they blew up the center of Caldera and just blew peak off of the map, I think the map would have succeeded beyond any other map. And then also got rid of that stupid orange haze around the entire map that turned everything orange. It looked horrendous. That is, I promise you, people care so much about visuals without realizing it. And if the whole game looks orange, it's terrible to play. It is not fun. It feels gross. You're annoyed by the color whenever you watch it all the time. You don't want to play that. People don't realize how that affects them. And when Caldera launched, it was so much more beautiful than Verdansk has ever been. If Verdansk had the color palette that Caldera had when it first launched, it would have been insane. In fact, I wonder, give me 2 seconds. I'm going to see if I can find my video of exploring Caldera. Let's look up Expel Caldera exploring. Yes, I literally have a map tour. Let's freaking go. Look at this. Look, these are absolutely, ironically, it's a little gray. If I see, absolutely insane whenever it comes to like height. But look at the color palette. We got blues. We've got absolutely, like, by the way, Iceman Isaac on the left side. I need y'all to know how funny it is that Isaac is dying on the left-hand side. Y'all remember that very popular clip that Isaac got while he was in a plane? He swapped seats and then he sniped somebody. I told him how to do that. Darn it, Isaac. I want my money from that clip. I'm just kidding. But we found this cool thing in Caldera that you could do whenever we were playing a little bit early. Only time I've ever played any Call of Duty thing early, which I find a little hilarious. But we found this thing and he was able to pull something off. Ironically, Isaac's on my team and Doug, Modern Warzone's on my team. But just going through the map, like the colors were so much more vibrant, just so much better. Like, it was all green. Why is this such low quality? Good Lord have mercy, Expel. But everything was like super green and super. Look at this, dude? We had this nice blue building. We had this tropical vibe to it. And then if you go and you look at like Caldera in the late stage, it was just orange. The whole thing was orange. And I think that made a huge difference on whether or not people liked it. Obviously, map design was not very good. If they would have blown up Peak and actually forced the mountain to disappear, if it would have like literally erupted and then it blew out the mountain and then it had just like vegetation in the middle and then we kind of like move forward in time a little bit, I think that would have been cool. But they just never did anything cool. I don't know what it is, but the laziness of Call of Duty blows my mind. They can do cool events. We've seen they have the ability to do cool events, but I swear to God, for some reason, they go out of their way to make sure that every event that they've ever produced is so subpar and so ridiculously easy to complete that it's just not fun. No one has a good time with these things. I digress. Let's keep going.
Or maybe overdone, like the movement. It's like they went full movement and they went too far with it. Warzone 2, they went too far the other way.
Yep.
And it's like you really can't go too far the other way. And I'm going to actually insert a section here explaining this a little bit more in detail with a little bit of graphs so you guys can see that.
Ooh.
So one quick thing I did want to touch on with the hype over.
Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. I was not expecting... This isn't the graph I was expecting, bro.
Time is depending on, like, let's say the game can't be perfect for everyone, so it's got to kind of find a balance. Maybe if you're a sniper, maybe you loved the meta during this time, but other people were less happy. Maybe you liked snake shots, and that was peak Warzone.
That was horrendous.
That can contribute to that. Maybe you liked the Grau or the Bruin meta.
I think there's a certain amount of like making things pretty even. Oh, I'm sorry. These are like orange. That's my bad. Look at this. Look, that's my saturation filter. I think there's a certain amount of making sure the weapons are balanced. And then there's a certain amount of them going out of their way to ensure that there's a broken weapon so that there's always something to talk about, which is dumb. They have to be doing it on purpose. Can we agree to that? They literally physically, there's no way that they're not doing it on purpose, breaking these weapons. Right? Like it's all for the sake of keeping eyes on the game, because otherwise they think that no one would play it. And the reason why they think that no one would play it is because they're not adding in anything but fun. Because if they added in something fun, then guess what? People would actually want to come in and play the game. But it's too many resources to do fun things. It's too many. We don't want to take the chance. We just got to make sure that things are broken and people are talking about it. Because if they're talking about it, we give free impressions. That's all that it takes. That's all that it takes.
Or maybe you liked the original M4. Maybe you liked it when we got into Caldera and the insane stim movement. And there's different people that are here
Stims
that will overlap with the other people, but not always, right? They might have issues here where it doesn't always overlap. And maybe between these two groups, they would have much more overlap and they would agree on things. But the community is so vast and so large that it would be nearly impossible to even get a majority to agree. And more often than not, I can say this is awesome. Best thing COD's ever done. These guys over here will hate it with everything in their soul. And that's perfectly fine.
Dude, it's like every time I know this is not a great analogy, but it is like every single time I give full examples and express completely honestly whether or not this person's cheating or this person's cheating, and I explain how or why they are cheating or how and why they aren't cheating, and people immediately choose one of two sides. They're like, you're sucking off the streamers, you gotta protect everybody, when in reality streamers don't even like me, content creators don't like me, I'm not trying to get in anybody's good graces, I don't give a crap, I'm here making videos on a video game. Why would I care if some random dude across the planet cares about me in the slightest? I also don't really care about money. So I don't know who you're talking to right now. Like, it makes no sense, right? And then the other side's like, good for you, Expel, talking the truth, hell yeah. And you can see that like every single thing has two separate audiences, right? You have the people that will agree and they love this, and you got the people that are like, I don't think that's right. I guess it's three. And then you got people who are like, no, you buddy, yeah, bud. Like, I think that those are the different audiences that you get whenever it comes to Call of Duty and pretty much anything. There's just a lot of different trains of thought or thought trains or wait, hold on. Are we talking about the same thing?
Later on, they might be a riot shielder and go, you know what? The riot shielder's amazing. I love everything about the riot shield. Keep buffing the riot shield. And I would be like, heck no, I hate the riot shield. And that's just kind of how it goes depending on preference. Maybe you hate melee. Maybe you love melee. Sniping, not one-shot sniping, fast TTK, low TTK, loadouts, looting, you know, and so on and so on and so on. And there's probably about 100 different bullet points where you can get people to agree and disagree to agree and agree to disagree.
Dude, I about said something incredibly political, and I think some of y'all are gonna know what I was gonna say. But oh my God, listening to say that, I'm like, what is he saying? Is he saying something? Is there something that he's saying right now, or is he just saying words? What is it that he's saying right now? Y'all knew what I was thinking. And
it's just kind of how it goes when the community is so large. End of day, COD's performing well financially. I just wish the game was working in order, but let's get back into it. Done with the graph section. I think this also opens up a lot of other issues. I know one thing is that this will be one of the last chances for them to bring new players back.
Yep.
The diehards, ride or die, games broken or not, a lot of people just play COD. Like I said earlier, if they hate COD, they're going to play it daily. It doesn't matter if they hate it. It's busted. They do not play anything else. Luckily for sometimes people that have been gaming longer, they have a little bit more variety in the mix. And it allows you to have a little bit more creative freedom in how you spend your free time other than just raging at COD, which could be pretty rough. Bringing back Verdansk gives an opportunity to bring back new players. And although people will claim the game's dying or dead, like it's not even remotely close to dead or dying. On average on Steam, just for perspective, Steam represents about 5 to 7% of the player base based off the sales data when we had the acquisition from Xbox.
This is actually really interesting, by the way. So pay very close attention because this is actually something that everybody should know.
Activision, there was a little bit of acquisition details, and it's estimated somewhere between 5 and 7%. When the player count on Steam sits around 155,000, that's roughly 2 million people concurrent. Lowball, not even counting the Xbox Game Pass that have incorporated and people are playing on there now because they get access to Black Ops 6, multiplayer, and zombies. We don't really know how.
So to be clear, at any given moment, there are 2 million minimum players online at any given moment, at all times. That is exactly why Call of Duty is not actually dead. It may be dying, right? Like certain aspects of the game may be dying, and certain aspects may not be. And I think that the thing is this is why I constantly have to say, like, there is no amount of us having a conversation and saying, if we all band together and we work together and we just stop playing for one day, if we stop playing for 1 week, 2 weeks, they'll have to change something. No, they won't. The average Joe that's playing the game is playing no matter what. You and I are not going to make a goddamn difference. They're going to make their goddamn money. It's going to always do what it's always going to do. Nothing's going to change. If they decide to change something, it's going to be because they think they can make more money. That is what it comes down to. We are not going to stop them by not playing for a week. You know what they're going to do? They're going to add another thing in the store. That's what's going to happen. And I'm not saying this because I want to protect Activision. I'm not saying this because I want to protect my career. You know what? Lord forbid I have to go and make videos on something else. Lord forbid I have to start making ads on these videos. Lock it in, okay? It's not about protecting me. Realistically, we can't do anything. Okay, I know that this is such a weak mindset, but it has been shown on repeat over and over and over the reaction that Activision will have. And what they do, players say, all right, we're going to do a blackout of the store. You know what happens? They add in 10 different things in a single day that are really freaking cool. And the average Joe is going to grab it. It's not going to be us. We're going to be like, all right, I ain't spending my money on this game. I'm not going to do it. Okay, cool. We'll just sell it to the people that we're always going to sell it to. So just keep that in mind. The number of players is so vast. It's so big. It's literally astronomical. And we keep saying things like the game is dying. Maybe for the hardcore player that really loves watching YouTube videos and stuff. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. They're tired of recognizing the bullshit that's happening 24/7. But for the average player, no. They're still gaming no matter what. There's no stopping them from gaming. There's no stopping them from spending the money. Stop, please. And I hate that I have to say this, but please stop saying something dumb. Like, if we just band together. No one's ever going to band together. No one. It's just not ever going to happen. There's no amount of us banding together that would do it. And I only say this because I want people to start thinking of something else that could help. Because I cannot on my own make the recognition or recognize that this is not going to work. We need to do something else. I need millions of people, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people to recognize that there is no amount of banding together that'll do this. We have to find another way to hit their wallet. All right. That's the realistic thing. Some other way. And maybe it's by their own mistakes. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. But if you have another idea, I'd love to hear it in a comment down below. Because for the love of God, I also want change. Please.
What percentage is playing on Warzone versus multiplayer versus zombies? BO6 as a whole has performed better than previous multiplayer titles and zombies for sure in a very long time, maybe since BO3 for zombies.
I think it's funner.
You kind of end up in a weird situation where this is like the last draw for a lot of people. And I know some of you guys have those friends where maybe they do play variety games and they're looking for something to bring them back, and maybe they know Verdansk is on their horizon and they're thinking about giving the game a shot again because they don't maybe like Resurgence. They like Battle Royale and they like the way Verdansk played when it originally came out. Which version? Maybe Verdansk OG with Nakatomi Tower Summit. Like, was it that version? And where does everything else fit into it? Is it going to have all the quality of life improvements that we had? I would expect them to be there, but everyone's expectations are a little bit different. I think they could do.
Yeah, I think we're going to see one of two things. I think they're going to completely revamp everything and everybody's going to hate it. Or they're quite literally going to bring back exactly what Warzone OG 1 was, bugs and all, because they have, I swear to God, this has to be how they keep everything. I swear on my life. I think they're going to bring back Warzone OG Verdansk. And this is the other option, not my actual thoughts. I think they actually just revamp it and everybody hates it. But I think the other option is that they grab the save file and they just plug that SOB in. I swear to God, I could see them doing that. That is something very, very specifically. I've seen them break things that were fixed in a past patch. So it means that they're playing off an older file. So they have the file, it's there. They could just drag and drop that SOB. This is obviously a way oversimplification and for the sake of, hyperbole, but that could be what happens. And if that happens, people are going to realize that they actually didn't like it and it really wasn't that good.
Really something cool if they manage to get it going in the right spot, because they can do something like what Fortnite's doing with their OG map, where they're basically running the seasons back to back and they're doing all the changes that they did over those time periods. Warzone could definitely do the same thing, Verdansk, and then these POI changes, and they could happen every other month or every month, and we can actually have rapid changes on the map. And when we get the new map, if it's Avalon, then cool. Does that bring in the conversation of map rotation, big map rotation?
Yes! Yes, JGod, please, for the love of God and all that's holy, bring us big map rotation. We believe in you. In JGod we trust, like it's on the dollar. In JGod we trust, dude. Please tell them this. Please. Obviously you don't have the ability to make it happen, but if that was what happened and we got rapid changes for 6 months, I would not be upset. I wouldn't be upset because realistically we're getting Verdansk for 6 months and then Avalon comes in late 2025, in spring 2025 with the next game, whatever the hell the next game is. That's when we're getting it. And my nervousness is that they're going to drop the map and they're going to do nothing for 6 months. There's not going to be any cool modes. There's not going to be anything like great happening. It's literally going to be 6 months of just Verdansk, which I realize is fine, but I would love to see them do rapid changes, progressing through how the map used to be. And I do think that we need to make sure that we have certain zip lines and stuff like that, it just improve the quality of life. But I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to choose one thing. They're going to take the easy route. They're not going to try very hard with it. And we're going to get a crappy version. And people are going to realize how much they actually didn't like Verdansk. And we're looking at the world through rose-tinted glasses. R-O-Z-E. We're talking about rose skin, tinted glasses. And I think it's going to get a little weird whenever that time comes. I'm hoping that they change my mind.
And the way we have it
something different happens.
With Resurgence, like where there's been multiple maps over the time. And it kind of starts a lot of those types of conversations with how things will work. And what
I do want to note here, if you have downloaded Black Ops 6 and you have Warzone, the maps are already, you have the Warzone map. Okay, so just to be clear, Black Ops 6 actually has the Avalon map in it. It's already there. They have the assets already pulled in. Oh my God, I just clicked a freaking button. But they already have the assets in the freaking game. So if they do not, like if they say that they don't have the ability to do it, then they're point blank lying to us. Point blank, they're lying to us because they already have multiple maps. In fact, they have Urzikstan twice. And we have Al Mazrah also in the game. We have Al Mazrah, we have Urzikstan, and we have Avalon already downloaded on our freaking systems. It is fully possible. We have 3 maps and 2 versions of 1 map already in the game. And for them to sit here and act like they can throw in Al Mazrah, or they can't throw in Avalon, or obviously Verdansk would be better, then that would blow my mind because it's like complete and utter bullshit, dude. They literally have the full ability to rotate the big map right now. In this exact moment, they could do it, but they don't for no reason. Just because they want us to be deprived, I guess. Just because they want to focus on other things. They want to force certain players that don't want to play this to go play this. When in reality, what's going to happen is they're going to be like, they're not doing anything for my map. I'm going to quit. So I wish that we could see proper change and proper like map rotations and stuff like that. And I think that would be so much more fun because you can make different like content on different maps. I don't know. Just my thoughts. Oh, hold on. Click.
With Resurgence, like where there's been multiple maps over the time.
Yeah.
And it kind of starts a lot of those types of conversations with how things will work and what the expectations are. So I don't know. What are your guys' kind of thoughts? I feel like they have a lot of work to do. It's possible. I think a lot of the, oh, there he is. 1v1v. Whoa, look at, what were you shooting at, dog?
I was actually just incredibly embarrassed. I don't even know what to say about what just happened there, but here's what I want to do. First of all, I'm sorry my face has a bunch of videos under it, but what I want to do is I want to look at go, you can do it. I want to look at some of these comments here. We have a comment from Hunter TV, and he said, I need to see Verdansk footage while you talk about Verdansk. I need to see something that doesn't bring pain. True. But Shane, this is the one that kind of cracked me up. And I think this is the most accurate way to look at it because this is what's going to happen is Shane says 91 days until Warzone has a big problem video. And to be quite honest, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You and I both know I'm going to make a video like that. And the reason why is because they're going to drop some stuff and it's going to be broken. And of course, drama does better. Notice how I get comments and I know that people are going to say, Expel, just don't listen to the comments. I get comments every day that say, Expel, you don't even make your own content. All you do is react. I make so many videos outside of this and people literally only say that on the videos where I react and add information to other people's content, right? But I make a ton of other videos, but lo and behold, they never click those videos, dog. They never click them. So of course, drama tends to work better. You know, that's kind of the reason that a lot of my videos have been focused on drama lately is because we actually get to have the conversation that I've been wanting to have for a long time. And I know people are actually going to listen if I make it about a freaking drama piece. It's goofy. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in this situation. Y'all make me do it. You're making me do it. I'm just kidding. I'm totally just kidding. Anyway, I'm not. Crosman says they're going to ruin our nostalgia, aren't they? Yeah, I feel that hardcore. Janoy says the map may share the same title, but until they revert it back to the original Warzone 1 engine, I can guarantee I can guarantee it's not going to play the same or be nearly as fun. They successfully killed Warzone long ago. Sucks because Warzone 1 brought some of the best FPS experiences ever. And then Rex said, honestly, I don't even want Verdansk on this engine, especially with the blatant neglect to their community. And I think that a lot of these comments kind of summed up exactly how people are starting to feel right now. There's a lot of big problems and they're just not paying attention to them. In fact, over on Twitter, I see a tweet from Aspects who said, I'm going to be completely honest here with how the state of the game is right now. Bringing back Verdansk isn't going to help. And we've got C-Preds who dropped an AI generated image of Verdansk that isn't Verdansk in the slightest and basically just has the text Call of Duty Warzone OG. I think we're in a weird spot. I think we're going to continue to be in a weird spot until Call of Duty actually has some open communication, until they get a panel of people. I'm not talking about just creators. Of course, it would be nice to have some creators up on the panel that are trusted. I mean, trusted, very trustworthy creators that are intelligent. But I'd also have regular people reach out to Joe 2360 and be like, hey, would you like to be on the Activision panel? And he's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I lay down spikes on the road for a living, bud. Like, what are you getting at here? And then they say, well, we're looking for the average Joe, somebody that doesn't get the time to play the Call of Duty all the time. We want their opinion. I would love to see that dude up on the panel that are going to help to have the conversation, because I think what's happening right now is that there's a disconnect between the developers of the game and specifically the higher ups of the game, like the people that are telling the developers what to do and what to focus on. I think there's a disconnect between them and the community, even though there's constant community outcry. I think it's hard for them to sort through what is actually good, what is bad, and what they end up doing, because they don't want to, is they look at the data. And I've said this over and over and over, but if you look at the data and don't listen to why the data exists the way that it does, then you're going to completely misunderstand the data. Over and over and over, we have this thing where they're like, Resurgence is huge. Resurgence is the savior of Call of Duty. But in reality, Resurgence is only huge because they made the other things terrible. They did a bad job on other things. And people are like, well, I don't want to waste 20 minutes of my time. If you'd recognize that and make this other thing just better so that people don't feel like they're wasting 20 minutes, then people wouldn't even play Resurgence for the most part. I've seen this comment 1,000 times down below. Like, people will tell me all the time, dude, I literally switched to Resurgence because I couldn't deal with the cheating problem and losing 30 minutes of my time every single time. It's also probably the reason why they sped up the matches in Warzone, is because people got tired of wasting time when they're dying to cheaters. There's just so many things that are misunderstood, and a lot of it comes down to them interpreting the data how they see fit. So I don't think it's worth it to trust the data in a lot of things, and instead you need to have conversations with people. And I'd love to see that they have these conversations with people. I'd love to see that it's not about a quarterly earnings report. It's about how can we improve our game to where people are having fun, and we get people from all walks that are talking about whether or not this is going to work, or why it's going to work, or why it's not going to work. I'd love to see something like that. I want to know your opinion and comment down below. I'd also love it if you subscribe to the page, because we make a ton of videos that are super topical. We also make random duos. We make spectating videos. We make tip videos. I don't know, update videos, stuff like that. It's always on the channel. So if you can subscribe, come back later. If you made it this far, honestly, we're an hour into the video. So respect, dog. Have a good day. Thank you. See ya. Bye.